was cool to see myself on there and see the team and, you know, see my kids. And so it was cool.
You have, and for those members of the media who don't, you have some extremely talented children, from track to wrestling to everything. Do they grasp the enormity of this fight and how big this fight is, and what are their feelings?
Of course. My kids, they've been in it since babies. They all in it, you know, for years, even hearing my kids like, Daddy, is you gonna fight that Spencer guy? Spence. Well, yeah. Errol Spence, is you gonna fight him? Like, yeah. Then here go my son, Dad, when you fight him, I'm coming to that fight. I don't care. I'm coming. So like I get it from my family, I get it from my kids, I get it from the fans. Everybody want this fight. Everybody, this is the fight that the whole world that follows boxing wanted. And when you hear from your kids, like they always watching YouTube and they see their dad name come up, you know, they always asking you like, man, I gotta fight this dude. I gotta figure out a way how to fight this dude, because when you got your kids asking you when you're gonna fight this dude, then you know you gotta fight them.
When you look at your career, and you've done some phenomenal things, when you talk about the number of weight divisions that you've conquered, to be undisputed already, that you've already done that at 140. Look, if you hung it up today, you know you would be a Hall of Famer. But is there a part of you that would have said, I don't know if my career would have been complete had I not fought this guy? So is this the capper when you talk about what you've done in your career?
Yeah, you can say that, but at the same time, I don't think I would think my career wasn't complete if me and Errol didn't fight. For the fact of the matter, things happen. I tried to get the fight done in the past. For whatever reason, it didn't happen, but it's here now, and we don't gotta worry about me asking them questions to myself later on down the line, because we here. So all that what if, it doesn't matter no more.
My last question, I'll let members of the media come right in. I know everywhere I go, everyone asks me about this fight. And even before we got made, is it going to get made? What is it like for you now? When you go to the store, when you go to the barbershop, what do they say?
Oh, they're just saying the same thing. Like, man, I'm glad y'all got that fight done. But man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. Them tickets is hard in the mud. You know, I'll be like, man, you gotta support. You know, y'all spend crazy money on other, you know, crazy stuff that really doesn't even matter. But a fight that y'all been yearning for, y'all been trying to force the action, and y'all coming up with these narratives. Oh, this guy's scared, or he's scared, or he's ducking, or they don't want to fight each other, and they just came up with all sorts of lies and all this crazy stuff. But now that the fight here, people want to have excuses, people want to complain. Support the fight, you know, yeah. Because this is how me and Errol feed our family. We the one that got to go in there and put our lives on the line, and you know, if anything happened, nobody's there to take care of us. Nobody's there to pick us up. Only thing they there to do is laugh at us. They there to write on the internet, oh, you got knocked out, or you got beat up, or you this and that. They don't never pick these fighters up. You know, they there for the ride, and then when the ride slows down, they hop off. Or when the ride stop, they hop off, and then they hop on another ride. So, you know, support the fighters, man.
I love it. And how you can support them, make sure, as I said at the top, tickets, AXS.com. Again, there's only a few left. You got to make sure this is a sellout, AXS.com or Showtime pay-per-view. Showtime pay-per-view. Make sure you order the fight. Were you tripped out that he knew that you didn't like hot sauce?
No. So it caught me off guard, and I'm like, how you know I don't like hot sauce? you know what I mean? And then a lot of my peoples, they was like, man, you said that in the interview. You said that. You know what I mean? He must have heard you say it. And I was like, oh, all right. Cause I was like, man, he must got a mole in my
Right, right.
oh. I was like, man, how this dude know I don't like hot sauce?
He's going to have to tighten up that gang that you had around you. I love it. All right. I know there are a number of people that got questions for you, bud. Let me bring in Andrew Roberts again from Swanson Communications. Andrew, please let the members of the media ask the champ some questions.
Thank you, Brian. And as a reminder to all the media, if you have a question, please hit the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen there. Our first question is going to come from Keith Idek with Boxing Scene. Keith, please unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Terence, thanks for taking the time, man. Appreciate it. You obviously it's all business. July 29th, you're both beasts. You're going to try to take each other's heads off and everything. Of course, there's a respect for one another, but you two guys seem to like each other. Is that fair? From the outside looking in, that's the way that it seems. Is that a fair assessment of it?
Well, I say we respect each other. We haven't been around each other to hang out with each other, party with each other. So I just think it's a mutual respect for one another.
How well, because you guys had these phone calls with each other and such, how much better did you get to know him in that way that you probably had never done with any other opponent?
Well, like it's the same, we had the phone calls that we had that make the biggest fight in boxing to date made, and that's what we did. We both understood the assignment. We both had the same goal and dreams in mind, and we just came together and made sure that we both was man enough and mature enough to get the fight made.
Terence, I know you said you want to focus on the first fight and not the rematch, but if you beat him in the way that I'm sure you feel that you will, either decisively by decision or stoppage, do you feel that he will want a rematch based on the way that you think you're going to beat him?
Well, that's on him. Like I said, that wouldn't have nothing to do with me. That would be something that have to do with him. Like I said, like I'm going in July 29th, 100% focused mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and ready to win the first fight. I'm not thinking about a rematch or second fight or any of that at this point in time.
My last question for you, Terence, is why do you think that he has tried to diminish your win against Sean Porter in the way that he has? And what is your retort to that?
Well, you got to understand, a lot of fighters and a lot of people have been doing that to Terence Crawford for a long time now. So it's nothing new. That's kind of like a seesaw effect. They see one person discredit me for one fighter, and then they see another person, and then that's just the thing to do. And then now you hear a lot of people on the media saying, "Oh, well, Crawford ain't fought nobody. Crawford ain't fought nobody." That's the narrative now. If you look at the comments or anything that's posted on Instagram or on Twitter, they all say the same thing. "Oh, Crawford ain't fought nobody." So I'm used to it, and I just laugh because there's always an excuse after an L.
All right. Thank you, Terence. And thank you for those questions, Keith. Next up, Andrew Jones with Anscape. Andrew, if you could please unmute yourself, you can ask your questions.
Thanks, other Andrew, as always. C-Car, bro, appreciate you as always, man. Want to ask you, with Coach Chet and his personality, what's the most entertaining or funny thing that he said? And is he or B-Mac the funniest guy or funniest person in camp? And also, you said on with Sean Porter's show that you felt the promotion, because you and Errol don't do crazy antics all over, that the promotion hasn't probably been as high as you thought. But 1.1 million views and growing for All Access, and a lot of people responding to it and appreciating it. Do you feel differently now about how this fight's being promoted?
Okay, so there's a lot of people in camp that's funny. I mean, everybody had their own personalities. Everybody funny in their own right. So Chet and Bo, yes, they have their moments, but there's a lot of people in here that have their moments as well. And The promotion, like I said, the promotion is going great. And the only reason why I say that it could be bigger is because when you go outside and you see somebody that doesn't know anything about boxing, they really don't know the fight is going on. That's what I mean by it could be bigger. Die-hard boxing fans, people that's into boxing, yes, they all know about the fight. They all been wanting to fight. They all been calling for the fight. But if I go to my next door neighbor's grandma's house that doesn't watch boxing, if she don't read the newspaper and we ain't in the newspaper, then is she gonna know who I am? That's what I mean by, it could be bigger on different outlets, I would say.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Our next question is going to come from Robert Littell with Black Sports Online. Robert, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Good talking to you again, Bud. Earl spoke about kind of what you just spoke about in the sense that, you guys are not on stage slapping each other. You guys are not, pulling type of crazy stuff, cursing at each other and things of that nature. How important is it, do you believe, when you have two African-American fighters who are family men, who are respectful towards each other? How important is it that the numbers, when they do come in, as far as the ticket sales and the pay-per-view, that we show support for each other with a fight like this?
It's very important because this is how mega fights get made. If these fighters doesn't feel they value or their worth is being honored by the fans that we put our life on the line, then those big fights that everybody wants is not going to get made because the money is not going to be there. So this is how big fights get made. And once you see a trend of the support of fans, not the ones that's streaming and stealing the pay-per-views, the ones that's actually supporting the event and paying for it and supporting it, then that's when you're going to start getting so many mega fights that everybody want to see.
And the second question that I had for you, with a fight like this that has so much anticipation, how important is it to you to put on a show for the fans? So like you said, they are talking about it 10, 20 years from now, or is just the most important thing is just following the game plan, getting the W? And how do you kind of balance that out when when that bell ring, everyone is going to be looking, they're talking Hagler Hearns and all of this type of stuff. They're looking for that type of fight. How do you stay in that zone and also, make it a good show for everybody who did pay to see it?
The objective is always to get the win, first and foremost. But if you've been following Errol Spence's career and you've been following Terence Crawford career, you got two exciting fighters that's always in exciting fights. So there's not a doubt in my mind that this fight will be exciting.
All right, thank you, Robert. Our next question is going to come from Hans Themestad with Fight Hype. Hans, please mute yourself. You can ask your question.
Hey, Terence, how you feeling, man?
What's up, man?
All right, so first question for you. Errol came on here and he said that, he needed you. He needed this fight. You are pretty much the ultimate dance partner. Before the fight got made, you were always just on some, look, I don't need him. I don't need this fight. I guess frustrated or whatever. But now that the fight is here, can you look back and say, nah, I was wrong. I really did need Errol. I did need this fight. This is the biggest fight in like the past 30 years or something like that.
Well, I wouldn't say Errol is my biggest dance partner, like he said, yes. So being the magnitude of this fight, the stage of this fight, the level, everything, yes, I need it. Everything that's surrounding this fight and that's on the line with this one fight, yes, I needed Errol. But far as career-wise, legacy-wise, I didn't need Errol because I already accomplished so much in the sport of boxing that I can retire right now and be in the Hall of Fame and ride in the sunset and be comfortable with what I've accomplished in the sport of boxing, because there's nothing that I haven't accomplished in the sport of boxing that would hinder me from saying, oh man, dang, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have did that. I already became undisputed. I already won ESPY award. I already was fighter of the year. I was already multiple world champions in different weight classes. I was already two-time linear fighter in 2 different weight classes. So, you know, this is, like I said, this is just a cherry on top of my ice cream.
Gotcha. And my next question for you is, you know, you're the type of guy that, you know, when you're at 35, 40, and now 47, you were always either looking at who's the top guy here that I haven't fought yet, or who's like a guy that's like under me or making his way up, like, damn, this dude could fight. So we got Jaron Ennis, man. And I know you're focused on Errol Spence, but it's like every time Jaron fights, this dude is just whooping everybody, you know, and Floyd has praised him. Leonard Ellaby has praised him. Roy Jones has praised him. You're focused completely on Errol. But do you look at Jaron and say, yo, look, man, I gotta fight this dude. He fighting his ass off. Everybody praising him. That's a dude I need to fight maybe after the rematch.
I always said Boots was a great talent. I always told everybody that I supported them. I've been supporting them since he was in the amateurs when he was fighting Gary Russell. You know, I always supported him because they always said he remind them so much of me. But seeing him, you know, I kind of see myself in him. And yes, he deserved a title shot. He deserved it all, you know, but you know, his time will come. But right now, you know, business is business.
All right, thank you, Hans. Our next question is going to come from Ben Baby with ESPN. Ben, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. And I appreciate you, Terrence, for taking the time. To kind of piggyback on one of those questions earlier, would you feel if this fight doesn't go your way, I mean, would you still feel like you were the best welterweight of your era without a win? Do you need this win, you know, as much as all the things you've accomplished in your career, do you need this win to feel like you were the best welterweight of your era? And does that matter to you at all?
Of course, it's always about the win. It's always about beating the top guys in the division. I can't say I'm the best guy in my era when there's still one guy at Mount Rushmore sitting beside me. I got to be up there by myself. So of course this fight matters. Of course I need to win this fight. If not, then you know we got to go back to the drawing boards and you know come back stronger.
How concerned are you about the size difference? You know, I've got one more question after this, but you know, the size difference, there's gonna be a lot of conversation about how big Errol usually is, the fact he can still make 147. You were undisputed at 140. How have you kind of managed that, prepared for what that difference might look like on fight night?
I don't worry about it. Listen, when you talk about size, you talk about Jeff Horn. They said Jeff Horn was one of the biggest welterweights other than Spence. When you talk about size, you talk about Sean Porter. You know, me and Sean Porter was in the amateurs together. I was at 132, he was at 165. You know, Benavidez, he was a big welterweight. I don't know, like I'm always fighting big welterweights, so that's nothing new. I'm always the smaller guy. Even when I was at 140, I was a smaller guy. You know, 35, I was tall, but I was the smaller guy. So being a smaller guy, you know, never made me think, oh man, this guy is too big or not. It's cool. The bigger they is, the harder they fall.
Right. And last one for me, you know, Errol talked about, you know, the amount of belts and how there are too many belts, and it's something that we're looking at as well. You know, he said that he made an interesting point that there's a responsibility upon fighters to kind of help limit maybe the amount of belts and maybe reduce the amount of titles. What can fighters do, fighters who are at the peak of the sport like y'all, do to help maybe kind of streamline some of these belts and eliminate some of these, you know, secondary and tertiary belts?
I don't know. It's kind of hard because you got to understand when you coming up, everybody want to be a world champion. Everybody want to be a world champion. So a lot of people uh, get it confused when they see all these fighters with belts and these fighters saying, "Oh, I'm a world champion," or "I'm a champion," and this and that, and I got the WBC diamond or the intern this or the intern that, and it's like, okay, but what about this guy or what about this guy? He got a belt or he got a belt, you know. But it's kind of not like it's their fault because you got the champion. The champion may be hurt, and um, they want to get a shot at a title, and the champion might be hurt, and they may say, okay, well, you can fight for this interim title, but when the champion back, then you get a shot. Then when the champion come back, then he get to do other things. It's up to the sanction bodies to, you know, have a model to where this guy got to fight this guy no matter what. Coming back, no money or nothing, or he got to drop the belt, or he got to fight his mandatory no matter what, or he got to drop the belt. Because if you notice, a lot of people, they be mandatory and they don't ever really get their shot because you get to do other things. You know, when you got Jamar Charlo, he's still a champion. He ain't fought in over what, 2 years, you know, stuff like that, like hogging up the belt. But you got Canelo, he going up and down weights, you know, and there's people at 168 want to fight for titles. So I think it needs to be more structure with these sanction bodies to where other people can get opportunities to fight for these titles, because that's what it's all about. Or they need to cancel all of them and just make it one champion and one division, kind of like the UFC.
All right. Thank you, Terrence. Thank you for those questions, Ben. Our next questions are going to come from Dan Rayfield with Big Fight Weekend. Dan, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Hello, Terrence. Good to talk to you today. Appreciate your time very much. You were talking about all of your various accomplishments earlier, as far as that you didn't necessarily have to have this fight with Errol because of, you know, you could go on and have a great legacy and be in the Hall of Fame and all that business. But if you win this fight, you will be the first male boxer, anyway, of the 4-belt era to be undisputed in 2 different weight classes. That's a big deal, it seems to me. And I wonder, when you think about that in relation to all the other accomplishments that you've had, and you mentioned Fighter of the Year and, you know, multiple division champion, lineal champions, all that business, where do you think being the first ever guy to do that, meaning win all 4 belts, be undisputed in 2 weight classes, where would you rank that on your list of, you know, many, many accomplishments in your career?
Man, it'll be up there. It'll be up there. It'd be top 3 for sure. You know, like I said, I don't think nothing is gonna outdo the accomplishment that I accomplished by winning my first title in Scotland against Ricky Burns. I think that still is gonna hold a big spot, a big #1 spot in my heart. Yeah, but this is gonna be a great fight, and it's gonna be a great feeling walking away with all those belts and becoming the first male boxer in the 4-belt era to actually win all 4 titles in 2 different divisions back to back. I feel like I started this trend of these fighters want to become undisputed. If you look, before I became undisputed, look what Bernard Hopkins, Jermaine Taylor, you know, that was way back then, you know, so that was a great accomplishment. But now you see it more frequently, you see it happening more often, and that's a great thing. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of fights being made and a lot of fighters challenging themselves and daring themselves to be great, to try to accomplish the same thing.
when this fight was being negotiated, and we all know what happened last fall, people thought maybe it was on, it didn't happen. You ended up taking your fight with David Evanesian. You all came back to the table. And it was a difficult negotiation. And obviously everybody is very happy that the fight is now going to happen. But I wonder, at the time it was taking place and you were going back and forth with Errol, you mentioned about the phone calls and that sort of thing. Can you, from your perspective of making the deal, what was the one thing that finally sort of put you over the top and said, at least in your mind, we're good to go and I'm satisfied and this fight's going to happen? Because, it seemed touch and go, at least from those of us watching the thing unfold on the outside. What was it that put it over the edge for you that said, you know what, this is going to happen?
It's me calling Errol. That's it. Me calling him and going directly to him instead of going through other people. It just took me calling him and us, talking as men and coming to the agreement. And that's really how the fight got made and how I was sure that the fight was going to get made and how I was comfortable that the fight was about to happen.
All right. Thank you for those questions, Dan. Next up, Marcus Hayes from Fight Hub TV. Marcus, please unmute yourself. You can ask your question.
Hey, what's up, TC? Thank you for your time, man. Marcus Hayes with Fight Hub.
So,
Terence, with all that's been said and assumed by the fans and the pundits alike about you potentially having ducked Errol Spence Jr., what part of this are you looking forward to the most, if you had to pick?
I'm just looking for the fight, looking towards the fight. Like, I pretty much don't entertain the people that say foolishness, things like that. Crawford ducking Spence or Spence ducking Crawford and things like that. I don't pay attention to things like that because I've been fighting since I was 7 years old and I ain't ducked nobody. Errol Spence been fighting all his life and I'm pretty sure he haven't ducked anyone either. When you coming up in the amateurs, you fighting the best of the best for free, fighting everybody, so this is what we do. This is what, we love to do. This is how we feed our family. So it wasn't in a case of just sign a contract or you ducking. When the business was right, then you got to fight.
You guys have been largely friendly during the promotion when you guys see each other. How far out of the window does that go on fight night, Terence?
Oh, we definitely ain't friends on a fight night. Like that's ludicrous. I was friends with Sean Porter, and you see how that fight went. I was friends with Ray Beltran. You see how that fight went. I was cool with a lot of fighters, respectful to the fighters that's respectful to me. But at the same time, when the bell ring, ain't no friends in the ring. You trying to knock me out, I'm trying to knock you out. One small blow in the wrong spot can end my life. That's how I look at it. So you trying to end my life, we're not friends.
All right. Thank you, Terrence. And thank you for those questions, Marcus. Next up, Jandra LaBeouf with Best Women's Boxing Show, period. Jandra, please unmute yourself. You can ask your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Terrence, for your time. I noticed that during the All Access, we saw a lot of the Cowboys. I know that you're a big Packers fan. What is the connection between fighters and football players? Because it seems like all of you connect to football players more so than any sport. Could you just talk a little bit about if there is a connection between football and fighters and how participating in that sport can help you in the ring?
I just like football because I played football, played basketball. I did all those sports, but the connection to football and basketball is both sports get their brains rattled. So I think that's the only connection, like the aggressiveness, the mentality of going out there and, putting it all on the field, putting it all in the ring. then at the end of the day, you walk away from the field or the fight with a couple of loose screws.
Do the loose screws make you better or make you worse in the long run in terms of ferocity in the ring?
Oh man, it depends on how many screws you get loose. Some football players last a year in the NFL. Some last a little bit more. Some fighters last a few years in professional boxing. Some last a few more. So it just depends on how good the defense is.
All right, thank you, Terrence. Thank you, Jandra. We got time for a couple more here. Next up, Mark Lowenwalla for Front Office Sports News. So mute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hey, Terrence, with all the mutual respect between you and Errol, how refreshing would it be for boxing if this fight cracks the top five highest grossing boxing fights of all time, just based off of skills, that it doesn't need any verbal mudslinging between y'all?
I think that would be great, and I think it'd be great for the sport of boxing, for the sport of all combat sports, because then it would show a level of respect that doesn't have to be aligned with disrespect to be entertaining. I feel like, you know, a lot of people see Mayweather, a lot of people see Ali, they see Mike Tyson, and they feel as if, all right, man, I got to be this villain, or I got to be like this guy, or I got to be like that guy to sell fights or to sell pay-per-views, and not my skills. But when people start understanding the sport, and they understand that you don't have to talk about somebody's dead people in the grave to get them mad, and then they start talking about your mom, and then they start bringing up personal remarks to what you said to them, and then y'all make it personal just to sell fights. I think it can be a level of playing field where y'all both respect each other enough to, you know, respect each other, but let each other know that come fight night, you know, y'all coming for each other head.
You know, you talked a few minutes ago about the power of just picking up the phone and reaching out to Errol. For fighters who are stuck in a negotiation rut, do you encourage them to do the same thing?
Well, yeah, it depends on the fight. You know, they gotta both want it. You know, if one fighter wants one thing and the other fighter wants something different, then it's not going to happen. In this case, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford wanted the same thing. We wanted to become undisputed. We wanted to fight each other just to prove to ourselves that we the best in the division and #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. Because like I said, whoever wins this fight is undisputed without a doubt #1 fighter in the world, pound for pound. So there was a lot of things on the line that Errol Spence believed in himself that he can be Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford believed that he can be Errol Spence. So us getting on the phone was like, you know, hey, what's up, man? You know, let's get this done. Not, hey, you want to fight me? Or come on, man. Or, you know, stuff like that, like begging or anything. It was just us coming to an agreement.
All right, thank you for those questions, Mark. Our last media questions for Terrence are going to come from Aaron Tolentino with KRON4 in the Bay Area. Aaron, please unmute yourself. You can ask your questions.
Hi, Terrence. How you doing? Aaron Tolentino from KRON4 TV here. I wanted to ask, you've been undisputed before at 140 pounds. Does being undisputed in this weight class mean more, just given the history of it? Just, you know, thinking about who's been champion in this weight class throughout history.
I wouldn't say it means more in that sense, but I would say it means more for who I'm becoming undisputed against. When you look at Errol, he's considered top 5 pound for pound on a pound for pound list. He's a fighter that being dominant in his career. He's a fighter that's, you know, being considered one of best opponents that I have faced, if not the best. So there's a lot on this on this pound for pound list that you could say was different with Ndango. Ndango, yes, Ndango had 3 titles, back to back to back. Errol had 3 titles, so we don't consider the IBF, as much as the other 4 titles, but no, the IBO, I would say. We don't consider the IBO title as much as we considered the other 4, but Ndango, he went to 2 countries and did what he did to those champions, and then dared to be great to come to his 3rd consecutive country and fight me. I felt as if that was big, especially the Ricky Burns fight, then knocking out Troy Noski. But then you look at it and you say, oh well, Ndango wasn't nothing, but you go to Errol and then he fought the guys that he fought, and he accomplished what he accomplished, but the magnitude of this fight is on 2 whole totally different levels. So I would say yes, this undisputed fight is bigger in the sense of what's all on the line for me and what's on the line for him as well.
Now, one more question. I have Errol's been on the record that he cuts 20, 30 pounds just to make 147. He's quote unquote the big welterweight. Could you give us an insight on how much weight you need to cut, and if you feel like at all you might be outgrowing the weight class?
I gotta cut like 5 pounds, man. I cut like 5 pounds, man. I'm good on weight.
All right. Thank you for those questions, Aaron. And thank you to all the media that joined us today. Thank you very much, Terrence, for your time, and Errol as well. With that, I'll turn it back over to Brian to wrap things up for us.
Absolutely. Champ, man, we really appreciate it. Again, you're going to see this man on July 29th, Showtime pay-per-view, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. The broadcast is going to begin at 8 o'clock. That is Eastern. It is 5 o'clock Pacific time. Order Showtime pay-per-view, or if you want to come out to Las Vegas, the tickets are few, but you can get them at AXS.com. And again, this event is being promoted by Man Down Promotions, TBC Promotions, TGB Promotions as well. But before I let you go, if you would, give members of the media a final comment here on what they're going to see, what they're going to get July 29th on Showtime pay-per-view.
Man, I appreciate everybody taking the time out to do this little virtual press conference. I assure you that each and every one of you will see fireworks. Like he said, come out, support the event, buy it on Showtime pay-per-view if you can't make it there in person. But you might want to do both so you can see it in person, then see it when you go home. Because like I said before, I'm going to gut them, I'm going to fillet them, I'm going to take them out the water, and I'm going to suffocate them.
There it is. And that's from the unbeaten WBO welterweight champion of the world, Terence Bud Crawford. Champ, appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you, members of the media, for joining us today. We will see you July 29th from T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm Brian Custer. Have a great afternoon.